All right, Steelers fans, welcome in. That wasn't just a preseason win. That was a statement to the league. Steelers didn't just show up against Tampa. They showed out. Rookies making plays all over the field. The trenches, they were dominated. Roman Wilson's emerging, and this defense might be the best in the league. We've got why this just might be the Steelers' year. Here we go.
To the corner of the end zone. Oh, for a touchdown!
Yeah, buddy, welcome in. I'm Gavin Dawson, 25-year sports radio veteran, and with me, as always, is the all-academic SEC lineman at Kentucky, New Bear Lesniewski. How the hell are you, buddy?
I'm so much better to be in here talking to you about this game. It's so much fun to think about how quickly the narrative changes, isn't it? Like week to week, preseason games that don't literally don't mean anything. But what do they mean in terms of from a week to week for every layer of this team?
Well, Steelers fans know football, and they know when they're looking at a damn good product, and they know when they feel like they almost need to rub their eyes because more talented players are jumping off the screen, and you can get excited. And now it's just like, man, if the offense can be just slightly above average, which I think they can, this could absolutely be a special year. You know, there's not any AFC team that's a complete offense. You don't have to worry about stopping the run and the pass against many of these teams. They don't have star wide receivers. Buffalo, Baltimore, Kansas City. You know, your defense really in a historical context has it on easy mode compared to what kind of juggernaut offenses you had to try to figure out. I think the Steelers should target 15 points per game. I know the number one defense in the NFL last year was 17.5. I think 17.5's a lock. Okay, let's go for 15. Let's go for 2014 Denver Broncos style here and you know, really talk about how overwhelmingly awesome this defense is at all levels, New Bear. I think that was my first takeaway. Like Tampa brought pretty much, besides, you know, Mayfield and Evans, their number one offense out there, a very good running game. They couldn't move the ball. If it's not for a special teams play and a penalty, I don't think they score any touchdowns.
I was basically rage texting you during the game and like waiting for one of those, all right, tamp it down. All right, let's just chill. It's preseason. It's week 2, you know, starters aren't out there. But then you kind of, you know, peel the onion and you go, well, shit, there were a lot of starters out there. And then you go, and these are our backups. And then you go, and they look better than they did last week. And they look pretty good last week. And there's a lot to like, and there's a lot to build on. And I think we've got a handful of topics, you know, you want to go through in the different position groups that illustrate exactly why it's so easy to talk about this team. And I don't want to jump the gun and get ahead of them. But, you know, the one thing that is really going to be interesting to come back and circle around on is one of the things you just said about the rest of the North is that at the same time that we're talking about how impressed we are, right, how impressive this particularly defense looks, and then the things that you're liking from and the playmaking from the offense is, there's a lot of like negative trending viral stuff about every other AFC North team.
Yeah. I mean, this league is for the taking. Nobody but in the NFC is as good as they were last year. If you look at what Detroit has lost and what Philadelphia has lost, so why not dream for now? And I think that's why excitement around Latrobe and back in Pittsburgh Saturday night is at an all-time high. I watched a ton of the all 22 yesterday. I don't know if we have all 22 clips, but I mean, we got to start with Derek Harmon. And, you know, this is the sack where he just beautifully drives the guard back and then sheds the block at the last possible moment. That's just textbook stuff coming from a rookie, New Bear.
Well, the caption that was going around with this one was Derek Harmon did this to another man, right? Like, this is man stuff. This is bull rush into the belly of the beast. I mean, this is just – the other thing that was coming back around on him was everyone who thought because of this play in particular that he played good. When you go back and watch the all 22, he played very good. He played really freaking good. And as you start stacking games, reps within game over game, week over week, month over month, this is going to be one of those dudes to watch 18 weeks.
I mean, it's a great defense without him. And then you hit on rookies. And I think the key here is, unfortunately, defensive linemen bust a lot in the NFL. Maybe not as much for the Steelers as other teams, but the fact that you can confirm one game in or 2 games into the preseason, Derek Harmon's not a bust. He's a breakout rookie. He's going to impact the game more than veterans and not be one of those guys that you're sitting around sort of, waiting to figure it out or, fearing the worst that you busted. And it's not just the pass rush stuff. Here he is, working on the inside, again, shedding a block at the last possible moment to duck in and get the guy with the ball. Again, you would hope that a defensive tackle that you had drafted in the first round could do this automatically, but oftentimes that's not a sure thing.
Well, what's really neat about this is as you go from clip to clip and type of play to type of play, you see a bunch of different techniques. You see a bunch of different moves. The dude's in his bag. He's practicing out there on the field. He's saying, all right, I need to get some one-arm work in. All right, I need to get some steering wheel two-arm stuff. All right, let's go swim. All right, let's go bull rush. He's got multiple things to bring to the table. And, what you really got to like, if you're going to talk about multiple tricks of the trade, let's talk about multiple dudes running game, right? Last week we were talking about Y.A. Black. Now we're talking about Derek Harmon. I think from week to week with this team, perhaps the thing that is most exciting is that every week presents an opportunity for us to be in here talking about a different guy being the star of the game.
Yeah, I think for a lot of that first quarter, you're looking at guys like DeMarvin Leal. You're looking at Isaiah Loudermilk making plays, in regular down and distance. Then you get down to the goal line and in comes a fresh Y.A. Black. And it's like, you got to be kidding me. Every different down and distance, there's a possibility of a fresh guy coming in who, has, I don't know if you could say an equal ability, but an incredible skill set that can wreck a game plan.
So if DeMarvin Leal were to suddenly pop off in year 4 that everyone has been waiting for, because he was a guy, he was an 8.5 sack guy in college that with the trait, the size, the traits, like I think he's at the very least underperformed and at the very worst is in that bust mold, right? Just pure data, pure counting stats, pure what was the expectations were versus what the reality has become. If you start looking at the competition within these rooms and the drill work into the scheme work and the games and the different things that you're talking about being able to unleash hell because you've got dudes out on the edge and you're not playing zone, playing it safe. Now all of a sudden you go, oh man, we've been so focused on this rookie, or we've been so focused on this tag team, right? With the edge guys, with what this might look like when Watt gets back. We forgot about it, pushed way, way back to have their starring role based on, what this scheme and what these guys together are able to do to unlock what we might be missing from someone like him.
Okay, so I mean, there's a lot more stuff we could talk about on defense. I think Chuck Clark had a hell of a game.
Yeah. Well, Juan Thornhill and Chuck Clark are erasing a lot of play. You talk about play-by-play, week to week. You're worried about guys getting old fast. You're worried about dudes who've been hurt and how long any of this goodwill might last. And then you go, it ain't just hit stick mode. Look at him getting downhill, or it ain't just this 1 week wonder, or this one moment in time. Like, look at these guys stepping up again and again and again. And again, it comes back to that competition where these dudes, I mean, it's like Shark Week. It's a feeding frenzy, right? There's blood in the water. I got to make a play.
Yeah, I think it was the one big play to Sterling Shepard that maybe wasn't penalty assisted. They might have had a couple of big plays, but that's Daryl Porter Jr., undrafted rookie, number 39, just getting shook into next Tuesday, and maybe Juan Thornhill, getting a little bit fooled as well. I do have concerns with Juan's positional awareness and how he reacts when receivers are getting handed off to him. I thought that was a pretty big mistake. And
sure.
As I'm reviewing that on tape, I'm like, man, maybe free safety isn't our best position right now, but if that's your weakest spot on defense, you're in good shape.
Well, and the thing about this defense, when it's playing like this defense can, is that it's not really free and strong. It's really players being put in position to rotate and mess with what you're anticipating the offense doing. Like Deshaun Elliott, Juan Thornhill, Chuck Clark, it's not it's not going to be as far as what they let Troy freelance, right? But the idea is that when Minka first got here, Minka was all over the place making plays. He's AP1, unquestioned best safety in the league. Why? Because he's affecting the game at every level, and he's really manipulating what the offense can do. And what you're hoping you get with this rotation, with the rotations of coverage, right? Rotation meaning players that you're going to play. Rotation meaning types of coverages that you're going to roll through based on what dudes are at what level, is that it presents so many different pictures that the offense has to game plan and then execute against, which we haven't seen for a minute here in the 4-1-2.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and if your starting corners are in the game, you can, have a lot of confidence that they're not going to get shook like that. They're at least going to be available to make the tackle when the guy makes the play, and you want your safeties being aggressive and flying around and looking to make plays, and maybe that's all that we observed on that particular completion to Sterling Shepard. Broderick Jones getting a lot of love here, playing left tackle, looking more and more comfortable. This is just a quick video that Alex Kozora posted, but I feel like we could go back and find about 20 of these plays from Saturday night if we wanted to, of Broderick Jones just looking really solid in pass pro.
Yeah, and dancing there. You use the term playing the piano all the time, which is one of the best ways to talk about doing it. And he staying with the block, even if someone gets a little bit of an edge, you just take him further out of the play, and you trust Mason making his reads. You trust Mason to be athletic enough to make you right. Like, you don't have to be Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen at all back there to make your guy right. You also can be as athletic as Joe Burrow, and if your guys don't stay on their block, or if they're literally giving up mid-play, I don't know if you saw that one out of the Bengals game where it looked like a couple of their dudes surrendered. Yes. And, if you're willing to stick your nose in there and fight, even if you have a little bit of, oh shit, you got to hang in and kind of reset yourself and run that guy past, or run him into another guy where your help might be, hopefully waiting there with a guy like, say, Amalu to clean his clock, then you got a chance play to play. And that's the thing about Broderick Jones is you're seeing all these tweets and you're hearing all these comments and chatter and blogs, and you're seeing all this stuff. And what's it about? The smile on his face. He's excited. Did you see the clip that went where he was talking about, I might paint my whole house black because the locker room got a facelift? Like, he's a different dude because he's back on the left side. He never should have left the left. We could talk about that all day. Let's not. Let's just celebrate the guy we traded up to draft at left tackle being at left tackle, playing like the left tackle that you traded up to draft.
Yeah. I mean, this is all trending in a great direction. How about we give you some Darnell Washington pass pro here?
Take a knee. Bend the knee.
That's a full-size linebacker coming at him that he's making look like a DB.
Dude, it's Game of Thrones stuff, dude. This is crazy.
Yeah, that's the mountain. I love it.
One thing we have to remember, right, is as much as we like the seam stretching, that as much as we want to think about and extrapolate, red zone extended, where you're going to take a shot once you get approaching midfield, and all the things that Washington has showed as a receiver. Let's not forget that he's still Mount Washington. Let's not forget, when we talk about 12 and 13, as excited as we are about anybody running free, what we're really excited about is 80 mashing dudes, wham blocks, Kaleb Johnson, and what this run game is going to unlock for this team.
Yeah, and we'll get to that run game here in just a second. I think that's a big part of the conversation here today, but not before we get to the breakout party of Roman Wilson continuing. Newbear, I know you've been a big fan of this guy, and you had to be ecstatic when this happened.
And he's going to go deep down the middle of the field, and he has his man, Roman Wilson. I
mean, that could have been a house call if it had been 2 yards out further, just a tiny bit overthrown that allowed the DB to get in there. But, I think what you're seeing here now is the player having enough success through practices and preseason to really play with confidence. And it's crazy when you're in sports, confidence is massively crucial. Some players can't get it until they go out and have experience. Some players, and maybe you were like this, show up believing I'm the best player in my position group. Get the bleep out of my way, upperclassmen. Right? Others are like, man, I'm not sure. Am I going to be able to do this? And then they start to have some success on the field, and that's when the confidence comes. And hopefully that's what we're about to see with Roman Wilson.
One of the great things about confidence is that it's contagious. Like people, nerds who talk about momentum not being a thing because the data doesn't support it or it can't, and it's a thing. You talk about the it factor with quarterbacks. Momentum matters. Confidence is contagious, and this guy has had Aaron Rodgers go to bat for him and basically say, "All you got to do is stop thinking, kid. You're so damn talented." Then he has JJ McCarthy on another team coming back around, saying, "Yeah, this guy was the best receiver in the country. I would have drafted him in the first round." Then you got going out there making 2 for 24 week 1, where they're throwing the ball in the middle of the field and he's winning, which turns into practice reps and him winning, which turns into him. Now let's build on everything you said and this ball being a little underthrown. Let's not be greedy. Let's build on the fact that they threw a pick early in this game and they came back to this. Let's talk about responding to adversity and missing a ball one way and then not being worried about being too perfect. Also not worried about making another mistake. Like they're just going out there and they're playing through like they're going to play the full game. Like there's going to be ebbs and flows. There's going to be momentum and you're going to have to bounce back. And they did it and they're doing it. And this is week to week where, practice reps building in a game going back into practice, fine tuning your craft, going back out there and doing it again in a game. And now guess what you see? All of a sudden, Calvin Austin's back at practice.
That's great.
Competition everywhere. That's
great. And it looks like Gabe Davis is in today, so we got to talk about that a little bit as well. Is that a good idea? Let's do this. Let's jump over and talk about the offense now, and specifically the running back position and what we liked about Kaleb Johnson from Saturday night, the rookie out of Iowa. I believe this is okay. So this is going to be
all day,
a couple of plays
all day.
I think, what I really, really liked is you could see some of the stuff that made him good in college, just being big. He kind of reminds me of DeMarco Murray, actually. He's going to wear you down as the game goes on. And that was something that he did coming out of Iowa. And we didn't get to see it in week 1, but the more you give him the ball, the better he gets. So that was a good. I don't know if he's better right now than Gainwell or Sermon. Definitely not better than Warren, so I don't know where you put him, but I think at least building off of Saturday night, I can see him developing into a player that you would want as a workhorse running back in the NFL.
Oh my goodness, I could watch these cutbacks all day. Shades of Le'Veon Bell. The patience, get up in there now, and he doesn't bend it all the way back, right? He keeps it vertical before he then bounces it. He's bigger than you think. He's faster than you think. He's a B+, maybe even an A- when it all comes together at everything. And the one where it turns into the check release is the one where you can see him stop thinking. He talked about it. You talked about it. Everyone talked about it. I was thinking too much. When you think, right, you hurt the team. You play slow. You certainly don't play up to your capability. And is this the one right here where he ends up being the check release? Yeah. So remember a couple weeks ago, he's dropping this ball. A couple weeks ago, this ball's hitting him in the face mask. Now he's recognizing, right? This is scramble drill. I have my rule. Go find green grass, make myself available, make the catch, make a move, make a dude miss, pick up the first down. He's not thinking. He's reacting. He's playing his game. And there's people talking about him being the most missed running back in the preseason. And you go, okay, well, what does that mean? It's the preseason. You're playing against backups, this, that, and the other. Let's talk about how 2 weeks ago we were talking about how this dude might not be ready for the season. And now we're talking about how dudes can't tackle him. Now we're talking about how he looks like Terrell Davis level read and react, Le'Veon Bell level patience. All this stuff, all the hype that we were excited about is back.
Yeah, I think I can meet you about halfway on that. I think what I'm seeing, just if we wanted to talk about what's not there, there's not enough agility. In college, he was really good at setting up tacklers and then moving the other way. I just think NFL tacklers are a lot faster and a lot smarter, right? So if you're operating in a college game on nuance and instincts, the gap on those closes almost completely shut by the time you get to the NFL. And you need a superhuman quality in order to be a star at this level. What I see is a workhorse, that you can be happy with, but probably isn't a game breaker or a down in, down out guy that the defense really has to worry about. He's the guy that can get what you block up right now. And, maybe could be, more experienced and just better overall at those kinds of things. But I don't see what's going to allow him to separate, at this level quite yet. Maybe that starts to present itself as he gets more comfortable here in the first half of the season.
I'll just tell you that I don't even think they need it. I don't think the Pittsburgh Steelers, they're not counting on him to be Ashton Genty. They're not even counting on him to be Jalen Warren. They're counting on him to be what they thought they drafted in Najee Harris. And you go, okay, well, Najee Harris is a 1,000-yard guy every year that he's been in the league. Yeah, but he also left a lot on the table. What you just said about Kaleb Johnson getting what's blocked, that hasn't even happened for at least 4 years. So think about that and how much better that alone makes this offense.
No, that's a great point. The running game's better. The secondary is better. The defensive line is better. The linebackers should be a little bit better, just with experience of Peyton Wilson. The running game should be better. Your quarterback is a lot better. Are you better at wide receiver? I'm not sure. We'll see. You're better at tight end. Let's add Jonnu Smith to this deal. Let's get Washington a year of experience. Like, everything is better with this team.
What they're thinking, though, too, is there's addition by subtraction, right? So addition by addition is what they're going to get from Kaleb Johnson, because he's going to go get them yards that they weren't getting with Najee Harris just by doing the damn thing. But what you're talking about addition by subtraction is no more George Pickens and Deontay Johnson bitch moaning complaining because they're the one not getting the ball. No more dogging routes. No more not being where you're supposed to. Like, at the very least, every guy that you run out there who's playing wide receiver is going to run the ball or run the route, expect to get the ball, and then if Aaron Rodgers spins it, you got a chance to win. Then you add to the fact super freak like DK Metcalf, breakout candidate like Roman Wilson, a guy who's been productive and been doubled that production, who comes with the speed, Calvin Austin 3, right? Like, you start looking at some of this stuff and then you go, well, what happens if they have a Gabe Davis? What happens if they pull the trigger on, like we've been talking about with McLaurin or Cheetah, right? Like, this is really, really, really interesting every time we get back in the studio.
Yeah. I think what it comes down to is, are you good enough to win a Super Bowl right now? Mm-hmm. And I think what we've seen in the offseason and then followed up in training camp and then Saturday night is absolutely, and I think I do believe that is why Steelers fans are so ecstatic, about what we're about to see here in 2025. You mentioned Gabe Davis there. Flying back to Pittsburgh. I guess this was from last night, scheduled to visit the Steelers today for a second time this offseason per source. You want a downfield guy. You want a guy who's physical in the blocking game. I think, he checks the boxes. It just comes down to probably the most important thing here is the medical on the knee, right?
Yeah, the most important thing is definitely the medical on the knee. I think then you go, is it money or is it scheme? Because he's not going to cost as much in either draft capital or just money, with real money, not monopoly money, right? But when you start talking about McLaurin and an extension or Cheetah as a rental and what that might mean, Amari Cooper even, right? Some of those guys, maybe not even as much as Tyler Boyd would be. But like, as we go through this, you look at a guy who's big, who's strong, who's fast, who's put the Steelers on his back, meaning he went for 98. Josh Allen hit him for a 98-yard tutty against our Here We Go guys. And we've seen it up close and personal how good this guy can be. We've also seen him throw, sub 50% catch rates. I mean, he's barely over 50% success and catch for his career. He's a big time hit and miss guy. And when he hits, if a guy who has a barely 50% catch rate, but an over 50% success rate says a lot of things inside the numbers when you talk about hidden math. So there's a chance that he can really help.
He can really help, yeah, and he gives you another downfield guy. If you want to use Metcalf for other stuff, I think Gabe Davis can be a field stretcher, but he can also give you the physicality that this team is definitely, having in mind with their 12, 13, and maybe even 14 or 04 packages or 04, 04. I don't know what exactly we're going to call the 4 tight end look and how much they're going to get to it. But it just goes to the idea that defenses have to be totally consumed with the idea that you're going to kick their ass in a physical confrontation on the edges, in the trenches. And once they adjust for that, then they're going to be so susceptible to big plays. And Aaron Rodgers is going to be genius at protecting the football and taking what the defense gives, pestering them with the short passing game and physicality from every skill player that they deploy. And then once that is established, here come the big plays over the top. And that's a good segue into our final piece of media. Jim Nantz and Tony Romo doing some preseason pregame interviews here on CBS Sports. And they were asked, how you expect this thing to go under Aaron Rodgers in 2025.
I'll leave you with a couple here. I'm out of questions. I want you to ask one. What is the question you want answered in the 25-26 season? The thing that's just ruminating in your head as you prepare for what we don't know yet.
Just looking at our schedule, which is loaded, but it's very Pittsburgh back heavy at the end of the year.
That's important to us.
That's important to us. Like in the Aaron Rodgers signing, and I think it's going to work out. I think Aaron, I know this is like the momentum. I'm going against the popular viewpoint of what happened with the Jets. It was better than people gave him credit for by a lot. I mean, he threw 26 touchdowns and only 8 interceptions. And what did he do at the end of the year? I mean,
he played great down the stretch like this. They just didn't win, so you don't get credit for some of the good games because you didn't win some of them. But he had 14 touchdowns, 1 pick to close out the last 7.
I mean, this guy was not throwing 14 picks and 1 touchdown. That was the flip. And I think getting around Mike Tomlin, having DK Metcalf, just the culture
they win already,
in Pittsburgh.
And then you add him in there.
I mean, and there's a chance
before he'll be better.
There's a chance at the end of the year, if they're good, because we can always switch out of it. The way the schedule was handed out to us, we could have the Steelers come late November, 6 out of 7 weeks. And that includes games against Chicago in your hometown. We have a game against Detroit, national doubleheader game. We got a Pittsburgh-Baltimore game. So there are other ones in that mix. We could see Pittsburgh a lot if they're good. So that's the biggest question I have. Is it going to work? As I sit here today, I believe it's.
So, Jim Nantz, very influential at CBS Sports, but TV networks are very good at understanding who has a chance to be amazing. And CBS, with the AFC traditional affiliation, they want to hammer Steelers in 6 of the last 7 weeks because they think this is going to be a ratings goldmine, second only to Las Vegas odds makers. You want a great indication? You go find the people with tens of millions of dollars on the line, having to make bets on how this season is going to go. They're not loading up on Kansas City, Buffalo, Baltimore, are they, New Bear? They believe the Steelers are going to be the hottest property in the NFL in the second half of the season for play-by-play rights.
Yeah, and it's going to look good too, right? Because you're talking about snow and you're talking about night and you're talking about the rivers and how it looks overhead with the drone shots from the West End Bridge. And there's really nothing like this part of the country. There's really nothing like this city at that time of year when the Steelers are cooking. And, you go back through and, I think most people want to talk about, ridiculous things like age 41 quarterbacks and how much they suck. There's more Vinny Testaverdes in 2004 Dallas where you're throwing 20 picks to 17 tutties like what Romo and Nantz were just talking about versus what Rodgers did at the end of last year to close things for the Jets. Then there are Tom Brady going 29-11 and, oh, by the way, still having 5 more years and another Super Bowl with another team ahead of him. Right? Like there's so many other people who just think that this is going to be how does it end? And probably not well for Aaron Rodgers, given everything he's been through, in that New York gauntlet and the Achilles. But like, this isn't old Keyshawn Johnson and Eddie George wearing the star like the Dallas Cowboys. This is DK Metcalf's in his prime. Roman Wilson, we haven't even seen him play a real game yet. This tight end room is ridiculous. The offensive line, so young, right? Like there's youth on the other side of everybody who's worried about father time for them to meet in the middle.
Yeah, and I see things with Aaron Rodgers that I will acknowledge he's not close to the same. Like even his body language and the way that his shoulders and back sit, he's looking middle-aged in a lot of ways. He's always like come down a little bit to release it. Now he looks like he's slumping, and so there's definite signs of age. The wrinkles on his face, the gray in his facial hair, it is there. And if you were like wanting him to go be prime Aaron Rodgers to drive this team on a playoff run and hope to win it, I I would say that's not going to happen. But what you will still find with Aaron Rodgers is a guy who's going to manage the game. And I think the most maybe important thing out of what they established there was how that season ended. And while the Jets season was flush and everybody was just, well, it's just not good because of Aaron Rodgers, he was actually managing the game perfectly and giving you shades with the touchdown to interception ratio of what he was doing in his final couple of seasons with the Packers.
Yeah, I mean, let's not forget that, like, until it's the end, right? You never know when it's going to happen, but like everyone always remembers how it ends, especially when it ends badly, because if it was good, it would just never end. Everyone remembers Brett Favre throwing the pick. Let's not forget that he put himself in that position because he still had enough of that Brett Favre magic at age 40 to put them in a position to they should have probably gone to, if not won, that Super Bowl. And he had one of his best and most statistically relevant years because even Brett Favre was just like, okay, maybe I won't throw the ball to the other team this time. You know, like I'm not saying that Aaron Rodgers is going to change his colors, but all of a sudden we think he's kind of cool and maybe he wouldn't be so bad to have a beer with. I don't know if you saw him with Nico Harrison doing just that over lunch the other day, but
both be Lakers fans.
Rodgers
from California. Lakers. Yeah.
Chico on down. As you go through, what Jim Nantz was talking about, what you're hoping, what you're thinking about is why you would bet on this team. Quite literally, right? Because that's what Vegas is trying to do. Because they know that when they're good, then these games are bloodbaths. Because you're getting AFC North, you're getting Ravens who are going to be good. You're going to get the Bengals who are going to be explosive even if they're not good, right? There's going to be matchups. Chicago potentially on the rise. All these other different, things that just look good on TV. And then the teams, oh, by the way, are going to go try and absolutely end each other because getting past that squad is what allows you to take the North, what allows you to then take the AFC, what allows you to then put yourself in a position where at the end of the year, all the haters, all the doubters, all the naysayers, what do you got to say now?
Yeah, there's a lot of haters, a lot of naysayers on Aaron Rodgers. I love just in general a comeback story of a guy over the age of 40. It is pretty interesting. In 2024, his stats: 28 touchdowns, 11 picks. That was his stat line the year they won the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
The difference there was they had either the first or second best defense in the NFL. Like you go, that's when you go back to we allowed 15 points per game. That's where I think Aaron Rodgers got maybe buried in the GOAT conversation was Green Bay could not maintain that standard. They didn't want to invest in defense. They believed that Aaron Rodgers could carry them on a deep playoff runs, and they just kept coming up short in the playoffs because they were an incomplete football team. And I don't think any quarterback is truly capable of carrying a team that doesn't have a good defense, that doesn't have a good offensive line and winning the Super Bowl. It's usually organizations that win championships. And I think maybe for the first time since the 2011 season, Aaron Rodgers has a chance to play for a team that's got a top 3 defense, maybe the best defense, and has enough around him on offense to let him cook, not risk the game until it absolutely demands it in the fourth quarter.
Well, and let's not forget that Super Bowl team, you're talking about entering prime Greg Jennings, but you're talking about, young Jordy Nelson, who hadn't become Jordy Nelson, Donald Driver, who was 35, James Jones, who's, the big play. You talk about guys like Gabe Davis, you talk about DK Metcalf, Roman Wilson. Who do these guys project and parallel like? And the thing of it is it's not just about Rodgers. It's about what's around him. And you talk about the defense. I think that's a check. We've established this. They're saying we could be historic. At the very least, this defense should be one of the best in this league this year. So if you get any reasonable production of Aaron Rodgers, professional quarterback, Aaron Rodgers, unquestioned first ballot gold jacket quarterback, then what is around him? And if you don't like what's around him, put your glasses on, put your contacts in, or go see the eye doctor because I don't know what you're looking at.
Yeah, we both really like what's going on around Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers. 2.5 weeks till week 1. New Bear, you can get all of our socials, our latest videos and written words all season long at thenollroad.com. Anything else to say before we let him go, buddy?
Well, we've been sitting here playing this little if-then game, right? Like, just want to recognize that when we talk about McLaurin, when we talk about Cheetah, it's not because we don't believe in Roman Wilson. It's because it's McLaurin and Cheetah. You're talking about all pros. You're talking about Hall of Famers. I mean, Cheetah's on his way there himself, right? So when you're having this conversation, you're on the elevator of topics. When we go through, what could potentially happen or what you might be willing to give up to do something else, the Steelers want to develop from inside. They want Roman Wilson to go become the guy. And if you think about doing that and what that allows them to do going forward, that's why they believe in both now and next. Because if they draft and develop and do all this stuff with the key free agents and you hit on a guy like Aaron Rodgers, then you have the potential to run it back at your number on your terms. If you don't, you watch them do what they just did with both Fields and Wilson to bring Rodgers in the first place. Like the thing that's so that becomes inspiring about what this team is doing is they've changed the way they've done business. And that means the product that we're looking at is different, which is why when we're projecting it, why Nantz and Romo are talking about what it could be is because it's been a minute since it wasn't just hope, it wasn't just potential, and it was actually probability in the Steel City.
Yeah, I think the trap that a lot of the great long-term, sort of benchmark franchises in this league have fallen into is believing what the Packers did for the 2010s or what the Steelers have and what the Cowboys have for the last 30 years is that we can draft well enough and have our own guys and coach it well enough that eventually we're going to get in this tournament and win the Super Bowl. And thankfully, what Omar Khan has convinced the Rooney family of is you really can't do that. Like, I guess the Chiefs have because they have Patrick Mahomes and the Patriots were able to because they had Tom Brady. But by the way, both those quarterbacks took $20 million discounts from the top of the market that gave the team the extra resources to buy up another 2 or 3 good starters that made their floor considerably higher at all positions. And now if you don't have a dynasty rolling like that, you have to assume our path to the championship is the way that the Eagles did it, the way the Rams and the Buccaneers did it. Hey, we're close. Let's go get Tom Brady and Ndamukong Suh and Jalen Ramsey and, for the Steelers now, Jalen Ramsey and Aaron Rodgers, and that is the most exciting thing because now you are in the modern game, not pretending we can win this with a wild card as Aaron Rodgers did in 2010. Right, they were 10-6 that year. The Buccaneers did in 2021. But
Ben was the first one to do it.
Yeah, and Big Ben was the first one to do it. There was definitely an era, late 90s to 2010, where that was a very viable strategy. And I think it was very intoxicating for a lot of the big brand teams because they're like, we don't have to risk anything. Right. We don't have to say we're all in here and maybe in 2 years we're going to have to bite the bullet of the salary cap. We can manage this thing year to year and just try to get in the tournament. And that is music to a businessman's ears that don't want to risk being in the cellar for 3 years and slipping into irrelevancy in the national discussion. Now that myth has been busted, now, I think the Steelers have a chance of winning a Super Bowl without that Hall of Fame GOAT quarterback in his prime.
And one of the cherry on top, icing on the cake, whatever cliche you prefer. And of course, I'm going to make it about food, fat kid forever. But as we go through the machinations of putting this team together and you talk about the standard being the standard and speaking of cliches, some of the things that they're not tried and true, right? They have just gotten stale dying on the vine, Tomlinism bullshit. The reason that the hope and the potential becomes probability and you start talking about likelihoods of the Steelers being, prime time 6 out of 7 weeks because they're on a run is because the dudes they brought in, you mentioned Ramsey, right? You mentioned him with the Rams and now here, dude won a Super Bowl, won Thornhill, Super Bowl, Aaron Rodgers, Super Bowl. Their standard, they know what it takes to actually get the deal done. And everyone talking about Cam or TJ and these guys, their playoff record versus Tomlin's non-losing seasons and, everything that's happened since Brady beat the brakes off the 2016 AFC title game and kind of stole if Blake Bortles didn't do it later. Guess what? Now there's dudes in the mix that understand what it takes to get that championship.
That's right. And that's why we are excited about what we're about to report on and talk to you guys with. Please leave a comment down below, like the video. The Knoll Road is brought to you by our friends at Bet Online. Link in the description, up to $250 in bonus bets. If you hit that bad boy, sure would appreciate it. Got to run back soon. Till then, we'll see you on the Knoll Road.